Phase 1, complete. Hello lovely, my name's Zoe, my brain's dragon, and I have finished Phase 1 of my entirely experimental 4-phase planning technique that I am testing out this Preptober. What that means is that I now have some actual idea of what I'm doing for Nano this year, and I am super stoked. The best thing about it though is that I have tested something and I've made improvements. So let's figure out what those are. Phase 1 was designed so that I had the very bare minimum that I needed to be able to start writing a story. For me, that's genre, subgenre, main cast, and the setting. I thought that those were the only basics I needed because surely that covers most of it. Particularly considering that when I work from a genre, subgenre, setting sort of standpoint, that gives me a lot of plot elements already thrown in together. When I added I wanted an ensemble cast, that gives you a whole series of things to work with. So I figured that that would be nice and simple. And it was great. And then I suddenly realized that what I actually also needed was a small plot outline. So I took Jim Butcher's story skeleton, which is when something happens, your protagonist decides to, will they succeed when the antagonist happens, opposition, complications, plot shenanigans, and popped that in the bottom as well. So that meant that I covered not only the character's plot and setting, which are incredibly important and are the mainstays of a lot of planning and plotting guides, but I also managed to get in a little bit of interest and question, which helps to build the conflict, which I hadn't actually touched on. I think that this is a really good way of getting a quick, easy skeleton or baseline to work from. And because it's a baseline, it means that I can then add to it, which is exactly what Phase 2 is about. And the good thing is that as soon as I finished getting those main details in for the characters, remembering that these are bare bones, like what trope am I associating with our romantic leads? What tropes am I associating with our supporting cast of ensemble friends? How am I making this vaguely work? Where are we going with this? Once I had those absolute basics, it meant that I started asking myself questions. And when I asked myself questions, I got good plot moments. And when I got good plot moments and plot scenes, everything became that little bit easier. I could honestly do this as a free right now, but the other thing that I need to be very mindful of is that the reason that this worked is because I had some kind of an idea going in. If you don't have any idea at all, this is going to be a little bit more difficult. So this is sort of, I guess, Phase 1 because what do you want to write is Phase 0, and that's a really hard question to ask, and I didn't put anything into that. One of the things that helped me is because I have been doing so much work on figuring out narrative structure, when I say what is my genre and subgenre and setting, it gives me enough to work with. One of the things that I found that I leaned on without really realizing it until after I'd done the end of the planning and realized I needed a story skeleton was actually that I had read Chris Box's Right to Market, and there's a lot of really interesting stuff in there about taking market stuff and turning it into a story that you like, which is basically what I'm doing. I know that I love romance, I know I love ensemble casts, I know what kind of conflicts and dramas I like, and so taking those and turning them into an actual very vague outline and story was actually not too bad for me. If that's not something that you are confident with, probably put in an idea generation phase at some point in this before you actually have to decide on your genre, subgenre, setting, and cast. If you have no idea what kind of story you want to write, how are you going to know who you want in it? That's also something that I will be considering for the next time that I write in this planning format. Where are my ideas coming from? How do I find them? And who are we actually interested in to tell a story today? That's where we're at the moment. Phase 1, complete. Really happy with how it worked. And it's given me enough confidence to go in and try Phase 2, which is putting in subplots and additional details, possibly secondary characters, and also doing some more complicated scene level stuff by doing the rock your plot outline. So I'm really excited about that, and I will let you know how it goes. Have a go yourself and see if you find that it works, because let's be honest, not every story is going to fit this approach. I'm just currently really lucky that the one that I've picked does. There are adventures to be had, stories to tell, and perhaps more importantly at this point of the day, tea to drink. I'm going to go, and I will see you next time. Bye, lovely.